Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is Tuesday, January 24th, and this episode is brought to you by my fantastic sponsor, El Cajon Harley-Davidson. If you're looking for a brand new motorcycle this year, you want to start 2017 off right, head down to El Cajon Harley and get yourself a brand new Harley-Davidson. Check out the touring bikes. I just got my Road King, the brand new Milwaukee 8 motor. Is absolutely knocking me out. I cannot believe how great this machine is. Go down and test ride them, man. Find out for yourself. The new engine, the new tranny, all kinds of upgrades. Better suspension. What else? They got, bigger motor, of course. This thing hauls ass. Go down, check it out. Don't take my word for it. Go see Greg Riley and test ride this. Or maybe get yourself a Dyna. Check out the Dyna S or any of the Softails, anything you want. El Cajon Harley has it, including incredible selection of motor clothes and parts. You need parts, they got it. I got heated grips and a heated seat. Thank God it's been freezing here in LA. Some of you are going to probably laugh like freezing. Yeah, 44 is freezing for LA. That's some bullshit weather. Anyway, go down and see El Cajon Harley and get a test ride, or maybe you want to sell your bike. You got a used bike. Let me know. Hit them up. I'll tell them you're coming. El Cajon Harley. All right, yeah, it is Tuesday. The episode is late, a day late. And, I don't like to be late. But here's what happened. I was supposed to interview Udo yesterday, which is actually today because I just got home from Udo. It's 1 a.m. and I'm doing this intro. But I was supposed to interview him today, Monday. Yesterday, whatever, I don't know. I'm upside down because I just walked in. I was going to interview Udo and then put it out. And then on Thursday, I was going to put out the Mick Rock episode, which is coming out now. And this is why. Udo's management said, yeah, you can interview him on Monday before the sound check or after sound check at the Whiskey A Go-Go. It's all a go. I said, cool. And then a few days before, they send me over some rules. Tell me I can't talk about Accept at all. Which is ridiculous because Udo is out playing all Accept songs for his last time ever. And which, by the way, the manager wanted to make sure that the interview came out right away because they wanted to promote the tour. So I was laughing like, how could you promote the tour if we can't talk about what they're doing on the tour? Just ridiculous, dumb old world stuff, you know? I've interviewed incredible people on this show. Some huge rock stars. Not once have they ever said, don't ask any this or that or any. No rules ever. Which has been pretty fucking cool. So anyway, they say I can't talk about anything about Accept. And what I explained to them when I first asked for the interview was I saw Udo back in the day, the Balls to the Wall tour where they opened for Saxon. And then the record gets huge. They come back, they headline. And then, of course, Metal Heart and on and on and on. To say that Udo was one of my favorites back then would be putting it mild. I just worshiped the guy. It was pretty much just Udo and Rob Halford and early on, you know. Those were the fucking dudes. Bon Scott. These were the singers that were just insane to me and definitely molded a lot of my style. when I was singing metal back in the day. So I explained to the manager that I'd seen Udo many times and was just really wanted to talk to him about Accept, his songwriting, how he writes lyrics. Does he warm up? How did he get his style? Did he sound different before? Was he, is it a natural voice? Just all kinds of shit. I had so many questions that I was going to ask Udo, and I was very fired up. And then a day before, they say, interviews are all canceled. Sorry, Udo's not doing interviews now. See you later. Oh, by the way, do you want to interview somebody in the band? And it's like, I don't even know who's in the band. I'm going to see Udo sing Accept songs. So long story short, I was pretty pissed, actually. I was just kind of like, fuck, man. I try to keep this show professional. And one thing I always tell people when they ask me, you got any advice on a podcast? It's consistency. If you're going to do a podcast, make sure it comes out every week on that day. Whatever day you pick, it doesn't matter, but make sure every week it comes out on that day. And that's one of the most important things. And being professional, And I was pretty pissed, but then I started thinking, I've been pretty damn lucky that it's only happened once. And it's been Udo, which is hilarious. Udo wasn't playing the Forum. He wasn't playing the Staples Center. He wasn't playing the Rose Bowl. He was playing the Whiskey A Go-Go on a Monday night. So, I get it. Artists are weird, and that's why they're artists. So I'm not going to knock it or anything, but I was just really disappointed because I know I've never heard the ultimate Udo interview, and I was really ready, man. I was ready to talk to him. I know he's from Germany. I know that it probably would have been a tough interview. I don't know how much. Of course, I don't know any German, but I was ready to interview him. And so that's pretty much what's going on. So I was pretty mad, but I went to the show anyway. And then, of course, monster smile on my face right now still. I can't tell you guys enough. If you like Accept, do not miss this tour. This guy, I don't know how old he is. I should have looked it up. But this guy fucking murdered it. And not only that, but his guys in his band, I don't know where he got these guys, but they were like each guy back in the 80s, you would dream to have one of these guys in your band. I don't know where he got them in 2017, but they looked great. They played fucking amazing, and they had the moves. It was like seeing a band in '82, but not cheesy, in a good way. Like I think a lot of stuff when you talk about the '80s, you think about the funny, cheesy stuff, but a lot of people miss what was so great about these bands was how pro these bands were back then. These bands would rehearse. They would get moves down. They would fucking have tone. They could play the shit out of their instruments. It was a show. And as much as that might not be cool, say fast forward into the Nirvana era and stuff, it was definitely reminded me tonight of how great it is to see something powerful like that. And Udo, man, his voice was unbelievable. I don't know. It just proves to me that this guy is fucking unnatural. He's got to be in his 60s, and you might not know who Accept is, or you might not know who Udo is, or maybe just know one song, Balls to the Wall. But if you really want to know what to listen to by Accept, get yourself a record called Restless and Wild. And then, put it on and turn that fucker up. Anyway, let's get into the guest. It turns out I don't get Udo, but I get one of the best guests I've had in a long time. Everybody knows I love rock photography. I've had some great guys on here, some great photographers, but none of them have shot what this guy has shot, man. This guy, you want to talk iconic photos. Let's talk Iggy Pop Raw Power. Let's talk Lou Reed Transformer. Let's talk about Queen 2, Syd Barrett. I mean, it goes on and on. Joan, Jett, David Bowie. Some of the most insane Bowie photos ever. And it goes on and on and on. But I mean, just those ones I mentioned, it's mind-boggling how iconic his photos are. Go to his website right away. Mick Rock is the guest today. And man, I met him over at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he was there doing a party last night for a Bowie shoot that he did, 72, 73 Bowie. He shot David Bowie at the Beverly Hills Hotel back in the day. And then he took some pictures of me today, which just I just lost my mind. There I am getting photographed by Mick Rock at the Beverly Hills Hotel where he shot Bowie. This guy has got amazing stories, and I absolutely loved him, and I cannot say enough great things about him. Check out his website and everything he has going on. He's got a documentary coming out called Shot. He also has many photography photo books, and he's just insane. He's just great, man. What a great day. A couple things before I do get to the episode. Let's see. What else did I want to tell you guys? I went to the NAMM show Saturday. That was fun. Thank you, Earthquaker Devices, for getting me in. I love you guys. And also thank you, Gibson. I got some great road shows coming up. I will be at the La Jolla Comedy Store, February 3rd and 4th. That's my birthday weekend. Come out. It's going to be me, Sully, and Lucas Hurl. We're going to be rocking there. And what else do we got? I guess that's about it. Oh, no, Denver, February 18th. Sioux Teatro Theater. Denver, I'm coming your way. Get your tickets one night only at the Sioux Teatro Theater. Okay, I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to turn it over right now to the episode Candles Lit, Mr. Mick Rock. All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Fantastic guest today. Introduce yourself, man.
Just another criminal on the lam, you know. But my name, believe it or not, is Mick Rock. Yes.
Is that your real last name?
Yeah.
That's amazing, right? Yeah. I mean, what are the odds of that?
No, I know the timing was interesting, wasn't it?
It is, because you're like one of the best all-time rock and roll photographers, and then you have a name Rock, you know?
Silly, isn't it? I know. I was thinking it's a bit like calling Mickey Mouse, I was thinking, you know? Well, it's been better than getting a real job, I'll say that.
Yeah. How are you, man?
I'm cold in Los Angeles. How about that? I come to LA. I've been here so many times. I can't recall it ever raining before when I've come.
Yeah, it's ludicrous, this weather, man. It's an absolutely like...
it's not picking on me, you don't think? You think this is like picking on everybody?
You brought it with you, man.
Yeah, I've gotten the blame for it a couple of times.
Now, we're at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I love this place, first of all. It's
very cool, yeah.
It's so old school, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Now, you were here in, 72, and you shot Bowie here?
Yeah, we stayed there for about a week, and they couldn't. It was a right hustle going on in the sense that they put it together very fast, the record label, and they wanted Bowie to come over here and do some promotion, and then they started to get some gigs. So David obviously came over, and he came over by boat. He wouldn't fly in those days.
That's right. I just read that recently.
Yeah.
Like, not until the Let's Dance album did he finally say, all right, I'm going to start
I
flying.
don't think he had any option. He was so outrageously busy by then. But no, he wouldn't, no. We started to do some gigs, but it wasn't like a fully booked tour at all. I mean, later I don't think I really understood what the hell was going on, whatever, 23, 24. It was... But then more and more gigs started. Once he came here, did a few, got the hype, then more and more gigs started to get added. But when we were here for about a week, that's not to say there was certainly Santa Monica.
Yeah.
There were 2 nights in Santa Monica. Now, before we went up to San Francisco, or was this after? I can't really remember. I know the jacket he got flown in that he's wearing because we were going to do a Gene Genie video. So it must have been before we went to San Francisco to do for him to play, but we also did the Gene Genie video.
Right.
So, but yeah, we were hanging. I think what we were doing, we were going to go to see Warhol's Trash at some art cinema here. I can't remember what it was called. And we had a couple of hours beforehand. So I thought, well, like we would often do in those, like I would often do with Lou, say, do the sessions and worry about what to do with them afterwards. And the guy that manages the place, he explained to me, because I don't know where, it's a bunch of trees and a bit of a building.
Yeah.
I can't tell where the pictures were taken. He said, I can identify by the stairs and by this kind of lamp.
Wow.
And then last night I met Robbie Anderson, who's, I don't know if he's some kind of part owner still, but his mother started the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he told me that the Beverly Hills Hotel came first, and then they started to call the area, as it developed, Beverly Hills.
Really?
Yeah, that flipped me. I thought, wow, that's a wild.
They sound like they were owed some money, some royalties.
Yes. I don't know how that went down. But anyway, he's put together this great book. I know he's going to send me a copy from the beginning, the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Wow.
I don't know if you can buy it in stores or not. I'm not sure. But it's a pretty fabulous book. But yes, David. And so we just wandered around not far from his cabin. I think he was in cabin number 5 because I have a picture. And Eddie, who's the manager, he looked at where I'd shot the pictures. He said, well, that makes sense because these pictures were shot, I think, between cabins 4 and 5 or cabins 5 and 6. So David was staying in cabin number 5. For those of you who get off on these things, you should request that cabin, sleep, probably not in exactly the same bed, but maybe you can get his sexual fumes in there somewhere, stimulating you a bit more, since it is David Bowie.
What was the hotel like back then? Was it rock and roll? Because
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, why did you guys come here?
Well, because this is where we were put up, and RCA had done. None of us had been. I mean, David had, and I had been to America because my first wife, like my second wife, was American, and so we had been here. I think it's 1970. So we were over here about a month, but that was before I connected with Bowie. So this may have been my second visit, but nobody other than David just coming over when he signed the deal with RCA, and he also came out here. That's where he met Rodney Bingenheimer, and who was like,
had a club on Sunset,
the king of Sunset Strip in those days.
Yeah,
I've seen it. He came to my Taschen X Bowie exhibition to launch the
Taschen's book.
Yeah. I hadn't seen him in quite a while. But he's still got a very good head of hair.
Yeah, and he's still got that that blue GTO he drives. It's amazing.
He's got a young girlfriend who's, probably he always had the same age girlfriend, however old he got. But he's in good nick. He looks good. If you get to hear this, Rodney, I'm saying very nice things about you. So, but he helped.
Yeah, the English disco, that club.
Yeah.
Which is now a kung fu school.
That would figure. That would make a lot of sense, in fact. But he was kind of important in helping spread the glam word, whether it was Bolan, even Slade, Sweet, Bowie, obviously, Roxy Music probably. He was one of the first people to play them. So he had come out here in I think November 71. And then he'd also been in New York. But I think that was the only time he'd ever been in America. So we were like babes in the wood,
Wow.
You can imagine all the girls and the drug dealers taking advantage of us.
I love that.
Little English lads over here,
Yeah.
Like Noddy, whatever. Noddy in Toy Town, but that was an English children's TV program when I was small. Noddy in Toy Town, and these little puppets would come out. But I felt a bit like Noddy in Toy Town because this was America.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you guys going crazy?
Los Angeles. Well, some people were.
Some people.
Especially the road crew.
Yeah, the road crew.
They're always the first to get out of order, yeah. Well, they were in those days. I can't say that now. I don't really go on the road. It's so fucking work,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, in the 70s, early 80s, I would still do it. But that's going back 30.
It's so organic back then, right? And weird small level, like, just some guys on almost a Greyhound coach style bus.
Well,
no buses.
No, you're right. There was some of that going on. Mostly David would travel by train when he could, because he wouldn't fly.
Right.
And I've got a bunch of pictures of him on the train from Chicago to Los Angeles.
On the Amtrak?
It would have been that. Yeah.
That's wild, Bowie.
And if you get my book, you'll see him in a pink cap talking to some old geezer there on the train. But I think
with his full-on Ziggy Stardust.
No, but he did have a pink cap on.
Yeah.
It was fluorescent almost.
Yeah.
And no, he popped that on if he couldn't be bothered or hadn't had time to do his hair properly.
Wow.
And I didn't think most people knew who he was then,
Yeah.
Again, some early days in America, and this was the first tour. But we stayed here. Didn't really know, other than the name, what the fuck was going on, It was, but the road crew definitely got I think maybe a little bit of something white and sprinkly had showed up.
Love that.
Which you rarely saw in England then.
Oh, really? No coke going around England back then? It's just
a little bit here and there, but more psychedelics still there. But
Right.
Of course, the Americans went hard as soon as they could. Yeah, you'd see a bit of coke, a little bit of speed, but not that at that time it had any particular interest for me. That came a few years later.
Yeah.
And again, it got really out of hand in America, hanging out.
That you got to have some kind of stimulant, right?
Yeah, that's me being a wild thing, yeah. If I want a wild night out, it's 2 cups of coffee and like 2 or 3 puffs on a spliff, and I'm off to the races. But, as I have every day here, I do my Kundalini yoga workout, and then I get a massage.
Yeah.
And then I have a cup of coffee, and then I'm bing, bang, bong.
Now, let me ask you, how do you, of course you start, I was reading about you shoot some band, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races, like, this is what I want to do. But how do you really get into the inner worlds of some of the biggest dudes like Bowie and Iggy Pop and Queen?
Well, you have to understand, I understand the times.
Right.
They were different times, and also a lot of these people hadn't had much success.
Right.
Now, David was he'd been around a bit. He had a top 10 hit with Space Oddity, but I think, and I didn't even remember it, from 69.
Yeah, he's like a folk guy back then.
Yeah, he was more of Mick Ronson helped with the rock and roll.
Right, everybody's Dylan,
Yeah.
I mean, Dylan's big. Everybody's like, I got an acoustic guitar, and I'm going to sing at coffee shops. But then, this guy is basically, I was talking to somebody a couple days ago about it, how he never did the same thing ever, and he was the ground zero of art rock,
Well, there are other people that might. I mean, really, the ground zero of art rock was the Velvet Underground.
Of course. But I mean,
but
pushing the envelope.
He got it to a different level. The Velvets, of course, could hardly give away their records.
Right.
As Lou and Iggy, I don't know what you would have called Iggy at the time, but you couldn't give his records away.
Yeah, that was punk rock. I mean, that's the first punk rock.
Lou's had a few punk rock chops because of his minimalism. I mean, of the Velvets and those two, because they would be fucking American, you know. But the Brits tried to claim punk rock, but in the end, between Iggy and of course the Ramones, even though the Pistols certainly had their moment in time, and obviously the Clash, but the image of the Ramones, is definitely made them the definitive punk band of all time, and of course they had the decency to all die.
Punk rock
except
style.
I didn't photograph them before Marky.
Right.
So
I mean, that's the story. The Ramones go to England, and then like the Clash sneak in to see them, and then they're all off and running. But it was the Ramones.
I remember going to a party. Would have been. I was over here working with Lou on the Rock and Roll Heart Tour, all those crazy TV set images, and I remember going back to London and that first Ramones album.
Yeah.
And there was a party. And I remember not that anyone really knew who the Pistols were, showed up. And the only record I could see was that first Ramones album. So the Brits glommed onto that as well. They always glom onto American rock. What did the Stones do? They fucking glommed, onto the black music.
The blues. Even
though it was just a couple of kids from the suburbs of London.
Yeah.
But they weren't. But Mick was always Mick. I realized many years ago with the Stones was one, their love of the music, but two, Mick was an incredible mimic.
Oh yeah.
He could mimic. Especially in those earlier, he could mimic the black singers.
The sound.
Yeah.
The phrasing, the tone.
Yeah.
Even on the new blues record, it's just amazing, right? He's like, I'll do the hip shack, baby. You know what I mean?
It really is a nice middle class English
a rich
lad. Kid. Who just had a thing for the music. So it was likes cricket.
It's amazing. So I know what you're saying. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't corporate or anything. So you could just be around and be like, "Hey, I want to shoot you," and they go, "Oh, please," because
it was a little to get you the thread. I had started to take. I think were they the first band? I remember there was the Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation, a band called Heir Apparent, who were managed by Chaz Chandler, who had just toured America. So this must have been 69.
Yep.
And Syd I got to know because he was from Cambridge, Syd Barrett. I mean, that was the first meaningful session. I had photographed a few pictures of friends or girlfriends of friends or girlfriends of mine and a couple of bands here and there. But then Syd talked to me about doing a shoot.
The Madcap stuff?
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. I mean, like.
Well, he was such a beautiful man. Yeah.
Well, what I trip on is, I've met, millions of people in the biz, and I think there's only two people, or one person that talked to two people that no one really talked to: Syd Barrett and Bowie. And not only that, but you shot these iconic photos of them, man. I mean, what was it
David,
like?
When we first started talking, because I went to seeing him Birmingham Town Hall, March of 72, and one of our first conversations was about Syd Barrett. He was a Syd Barrett obsessive.
Right.
In fact, when I did this limited edition book with Genesis Publications, I'm sure you know who they are.
Yeah. Oh, I love their Exile.
They did a lot. That's great. And I did Moon Age Daydream with them. I also did this Syd Barrett book, Psychedelic Renegades.
Right.
You want me to bingo? Yeah. Yep. And then I did a Queen book with them that Roger and Brian co-signed.
That company's amazing, right?
Beautiful books.
Unbelievable. Yeah. They are like...
Especially rock and roll books. Not just. They just did a big Vogue one. But unlike Taschen haven't done many rock and roll books. And only in the last maybe 3-4 years at most, they did they're more eclectic in many ways.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they'll go from architecture to photos from The Godfather to
yes.
boobs, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, you can get some of that as well there. You don't get them at Genesis, darling.
No. No.
There are no boobs. But we've resurrected the Lou Reed book that I did just before he died. He only was able to co-sign 600 of them.
Right.
And of course it's called Transformer. And it's a beautiful book. But that got put aside for me because this fucking Bowie book just took over.
Yeah.
And then all the shows with it, and then poor David died, and the commercial one. So anyway, the Lou Reed one will be popping up again this year, the limited edition. We're going to have to do an embossed signature. I've done 2,000 more words I've written for it, and done, I think, another 60 scans, including a whole load of stuff that's never been seen before.
Right.
And maybe Laurie's going to write something for it too. So Laurie obviously being his wife.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the autumn, because basically the book's done, other than the bits we're going to add to it. And then there's other projects being talked about. But the big thing one hopes is coming up is the documentary called Shots that Vice Films produced, and that Magnolia.
Yeah, yeah, that looks great.
Well, it's not your usual one. No talking heads. I had people approach about for years. I said, I don't want any talking heads, and I don't want any of this. I don't want a fucking nostalgia book, documentary. It's not like anything you would have seen before. Whether you like it or not is another story. Although it is getting good reaction. But come April, Magnolia are going to release it. They say they're going to be, a theatrical release, which clearly it's not the latest blockbuster.
Right.
It didn't cost like $100 million to make.
Of course.
But it'll get out to some of those art cinemas.
Yeah, like Sunset 5 here in L.A. And,
exactly.
Like the same ones where the Iggy Pop film went, new art, that kind of stuff.
Exactly what it is, yeah.
What was Syd like, man? Like
there's footage in there that no one's ever seen of Syd.
Yeah.
That would be from '69.
Right.
When I just finished at Cambridge. So that's how it was Syd, and David wanted to know about Syd.
Like, what was he like?
I love Syd. We did, people who say, Mick, Syd, it's got to be mad. And go, well, it wasn't, we did an acid trip just before, about 2 weeks before the Madcap sessions.
You did acid with him?
Yeah, that's what people was going, oh my God. But it was actually, he was a big jazz guy. I remember we was playing a lot of John Coltrane. We played that game Go.
On acid?
I remember we had some Robert Crumb comics around too, because they were big in England as well, the underground comics.
R. Crumb was, all that stuff?
Well, yeah, even though it came, there wasn't really much English stuff,
right,
but the American stuff. Yeah, I remember hearing, probably 67, remember there was a guy, his name was Steve Plagiaman, and he was a postgraduate guy from Berkeley, and he was definitely well hippie looking. And he talked to me about, he did a whole thesis on the San Andreas Fault. I remember that was his thing. But he was the first one, and this was probably my first year, they're probably 66, 67, to turn us on to, I remember him playing Country Joe and the Fish.
Wow.
And the Grateful Dead. Never heard of them.
Wow.
And these were not albums. These were like they were like bigger than 7 inches, but they weren't as big as 12 inches. They were just these obviously specially...
Like 78s or something?
No, they weren't 78s. They were, but they'd have like 3 or 4 tracks on them.
Like an EP?
Yeah, it would have been an EP.
Right.
Exactly, yes. I forgot about EPs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Extended play.
Yes. Extended brain damage.
So this guy had that Grateful Dead?
Well, he was the first. Yeah, that was the first time I heard the Dead and Country Joe, and but that probably was 67.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, he laughed a lot, Syd. He was actually he was a lot of fun. I liked Syd. The very last, after I'd left Cambridge, would have been 71. You may have seen some of the pictures. They're not as well known as the Mad Cut ones, but or the ones on the street.
The one on the car.
Yes, exactly. What was that? A Pontiac, maybe?
Yep.
I think it was
that long ass car.
Yeah, it was. He never drove it. A guy he swapped it with Mickey Finn, who was like a character around town, and then later, a couple of years later, he was playing bongos for T-Rex.
Wow.
After Steve Peregrine Took, who was in Tyrannosaurus Rex. So anyway, yeah.
What was that acid like back then? Was it just clean and strong?
Oh, the first acid I ever took.
Yeah.
I remember coming down from Cambridge, probably hitchhiking, just a bunch of English kids who think they're hip suddenly.
Yeah.
And because we discovered hashish, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, those were the days. And we went to see this artist. I remember it was on Cromwell Road, right in the middle of London. We went to see this artist who had blotting paper, and he had a bottle with a dropper in it.
Blotter acid, yeah.
Yeah, and he'd plonk it. I mean, how much were we taking? There was no real control. It was not like, you know, the window pane or all that came where it's, you know, there's what you're getting, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fun. I didn't know. What did I know? I was a kid of whatever I was, 18, 19, and, you know, fucking LSD.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story, that whole little acid group in London and in Cambridge, which was where because Syd was from Cambridge, as was Roger Waters and Dave Gilmour.
Yeah.
In fact, I knew Dave. He used to play in a local band called the Joker's Wild.
Wow.
And I remember him doing, he used to do cover songs.
Well,
like the Midnight Hour. I can still see him doing the Midnight Hour.
Unbelievable.
Very long hair.
Yeah.
Very cute. He was
super good looking, right?
Yeah, he was known as the best looking boy. He wasn't a student, but although his father was a lecturer, actually at one of the colleges, and the great story was with Dave was that Brian Epstein had been interested in him, and he had been chased around the bedroom by Brian Epstein.
Wow.
So that was a certain fact.
The Stones manager or the record guy? That guy?
No, Brian Epstein. He was the Beatles guy.
Oh, the Beatles guy. That's it. Yeah.
Not Andrew Oldham,
yeah.
who years later became in New York, became a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, wow.
And that's how I got to know Alan Klein as well. Do you know who Alan is?
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah, and he saved my fucking life. 20 years ago, when I had heart bypass surgery and had no insurance and was broken. Fucking hell. He and Andrew, I had done a bunch of work for him, a bunch of packaging work. Yeah, I mean, I loved Alan. I know his reputation, and it was a hardcore one. But as Andrew said, well, everybody signed, and Alan had what we wanted, which was money.
Yeah.
And when the Stones, they still get the royalties. Alan got 50%.
Right.
Mick, Keith, and Andrew all got 12.5%.
All that Abco stuff.
Exactly. And I did the London. You've seen the singles collection with all the little.
Yeah, the little fellas.
I put that together for him.
Wow.
And the Phil Spector Back to Mono.
Yeah.
Because Phil was handled by Alan for a while. Things got a little bit, when that thing went down. I think there was maybe not really so much from Alan, but certainly from his son Jody, who now runs Abco. Very nice gentleman. Known him for many years. And Andrew Oldham, that's a whole other story, man.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. Very unbelievably intelligent, but in a totally eccentric way. And he was the one that went to Alan and said, Mick's having a rough time. Alan got me on the phone. This was 1996. This would have been probably early December. And Alan said to me, I'm going to send an ambulance and put you under my cardiologist. Because he'd had a couple of issues himself.
Right.
And he said, don't worry, I'm covering it. He paid the whole fucking thing, man.
Wow.
Got me the best doctors. NYU Medical Center, one of the big hospitals in New York, and basically saved my life.
Wow.
I know. And then people go, Alan Klein? Yeah, Alan Klein.
That's incredible.
No, he had that other side to him. Like a lot of hardcore people I would meet in the music business, and they were like hardcore when it came to business.
Yeah.
But if it was personal, certainly that was true of Alan. If it was personal, he was a very different person. He could be incredibly generous. But the great thing, I do remember, must have been a couple of days after my heart quadruple bypass heart surgery, because I'd had a couple of heart attacks.
Wow.
And my heart was doing crazy things like...
Wow.
Anyway,
wow.
That fucking room was filled up with people. There were doctors assistants, nurses, God knows what. Only a little bit later did it, because I'm whacked out of my brain, did I realise they couldn't afford to let me die because Alan was giving this hospital like $1 million a year.
Whoa, donations?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he probably needed some because he had been there.
Oh,
he
yeah.
put me under his card. Oh, yeah, they couldn't afford to let me die.
Wow. Wow.
So I was well looked after.
Oh, my God.
I know. Well, sometimes I think maybe the star wasn't always so lucky. And then other times I think, no, maybe the star was shining on a few occasions in my life.
Wow, man. Were you in contact with Bowie the last year of his life?
We did that book together.
Right.
For Taschen.
Oh, yeah.
The Rise of David Bowie in 1972. So, yes.
Did you know he was sick? No one knew, right? No one?
Well, I knew he'd had other issues because he'd had a couple of strokes.
Oh, he did?
And I assumed it was all about that. But
was that a secret? Because
I don't know if that bit was a secret. Certainly the cancer was a huge secret.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, he was still sending very friendly emails to the end. I don't know if he was really expecting to go when he did. Although I know I went up to the office last year because your mum wanted me to dedicate one of the co-signed books to their daughter,
right,
Lexi. And the lady told me he was at the end. David went to the office and said, I've not got long, but don't worry about me. I've had a great life. I'm more concerned about you, dealing with the aftermath. I thought, wow. He was a very gracious human being.
Wow.
And he was. However crazy I've been at times, he was a sweet soul, is the only way I can describe him. He was, and he had a very light touch. For someone who's had such a profound influence culturally, not just musically, but culturally, he was a very light spirit. He was never, Lou could get heavy.
Yeah.
Lou Reed, he would go for the heavy. But David was the polar opposite. I always see them as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Lou and David, and of course they're both gone now. And he was a generous soul. Remember when I went in for my heart bypass surgery, actually the first 2 cards I got were from David and Lou. Even though I'd been fucked up and hadn't worked with them for quite a while, they nevertheless. And then they gave me money and signed prints. These were kind people. And I knew of other instances too. It wasn't just me. But yeah, David, well, I'm glad we did that book together.
Yeah,
just before he died, and it was my final homage to him, if you like. Have you seen the book?
I haven't. I saw. I was looking at the photos, and I was like, "Wow!"
About half the book stuff in it had never been seen before.
Wow.
Go to they're not the commercial. Yes, if you want to get the limited edition now, which they don't even have it, Tash, you got to pay $7,000 or $8,000. But you can go and get a commercial version of the book. It costs you $70.
Oh, cool.
So you get over to the Taschen store, which is only, I think it's only about 1.25 miles from
there. Right over there on
Beverly
Rodeo.
Boulevard.
Yeah, Beverly there. Yeah. In Beverly Hills.
It's great, and it's got the lenticular cover. And it's, I think it's a pretty cool book.
Yeah, your images, all of them are so iconic. The one of Iggy Pop doing the backwards kind of, almost the yoga thing. That's like one of the most iconic Iggy Pop photos ever, besides the one where he's standing on the crowd. And then the Raw Power. Raw Power cover, man.
I know.
I mean, you shot...
And Transformer.
You're called the guy who shot the 70s. And man, did you shoot the shit out of the 70s. The 70s are so amazing in music, right? And
well, the things moved a little differently. I mean, yes, James Taylor comes out of the 70s, God bless him, and he's made some great music too. I'm not knocking him at all. But he would be one end of the spectrum, and over here, there was something a bit more radical. I mean, Lou and Iggy had never sold any records. Velvet Underground and the Stooges albums, and even Raw Power. I've got him on tape from probably from about 4 years ago. I've done another session since with Iggy, but he's talking about Raw Power, and he says 3 months after it was released, it was in the 50-cent bin. So it was complete dog. Now it's one of the great albums of all time. Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, I watched that documentary, and like they go out on tour, and then he's back home living at his mom's in that trailer or whatever. You're just like, what? And it's hard to believe how many times I've heard "I Want to Be Your Dog."
Oh,
it's
man.
like one of the most iconic songs every band covers.
The time, you're a bit younger than me, I'm sure. So, but the timing when I first heard it, I mean, that was like a revolution.
Yeah.
I want to be your motherfucking dog.
Yeah, right?
I mean, nobody ever... There just weren't lyrics out there like that.
Yeah.
And, of course, it took a few years for people to catch up. And when you talk about punk, though, nobody was more punk than Iggy.
No way, I know.
I mean, he was way ahead of the pack. I mean, okay, God bless the Pistols, but still that was strictly amateur time compared to Iggy.
Yeah.
So...
Let's talk about that Pistols photo you took in '76. They're playing that club.
Yeah, off Tottenham Court Road, yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you look at that pistol photo, they look like so innocent, right?
Well, they were.
Compared to what the end is, which is like, let's say, Winterland, When you look at this photo, I mean, I look at it and go, that's not even the same band. It's crazy how...
Well, all that media they got kind of built them. I mean, they weren't starting out. They were like goofing about, really.
Yeah.
I know Steve Jones better because Steve is out here.
Yeah.
He's been a DJ for years.
Yeah, but I love him.
And he did a couple of things with the ones that really set everybody off. Like it was Bill Grundy's show. He was the one that said, fuck you, not Johnny.
Right.
Steve, and of course, Steve told me once, he said, I could pay one chord, he said, when the Pistols got going. He also talked to me about the heist, when they heisted some of Bowie's equipment.
Oh, yeah. I heard they stole the tube mic and some cymbals and everything.
Yeah.
I was just reading about that in his book, and he said later he apologized, but he felt like they knew he did it. And those were his idols. He stole their gear. He stole their fucking equipment.
Well, they had no money, David had a bit more money. Why not?
I can't imagine me going to see an AC/DC, which at the time when I was a kid, and then steal Angus's guitar.
Yeah. I like AC, even though that's not the sort. I mean, I've photographed Brian.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You shot the cover for Geordie.
Yes, you're very well educated.
Yeah,
yes.
well, I love.
You want to see my backstage pictures?
Oh, well, I want to ask you about this. When you shoot Geordie, can you believe that?
Well, he had that amazing voice right then and there.
Right.
So you knew, as young as we all were, you knew this was something special. But of course, it took him getting to AC/DC.
It's incredible, right? Back in Black is like the second biggest record of all time, I mean, you were shooting him. You're never going to think later this guy's going to be one of the biggest ever.
Unbelievable. No, unbelievable. I mean, there's always a debate, and because I'm not like an AC/DC aficionado, it's not something, but who's the better lead singer?
Right.
But it's clearly Brian to me. I mean, I know there is the school of thought that thinks, what's his name, the overdoser? What's his name?
Bon Scott.
Yeah. But I think Brian's... I mean, in many ways, Brian's stuff is the stuff that gets most played.
Yeah.
So, but of course, that's a beautiful thing to have a debate about who...
That's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Right? I mean...
I don't think Brian was ever a huge drugger.
No.
I think that was, and I've seen him in more recent years. I'm sure it made life a bit easier for the band. Plus, in a way, he was working for the brothers.
Right. Yeah. He was like it seems
It was
to me
initially a hired gun.
Seems like to me all the way to the end now. Now that we see how it played out, we definitely
because his voice is gone, right?
No, because on this last tour he sounded better than I'd heard him in 20 years.
Really?
I think it was something else.
But is the band over then?
Well, we don't know. We don't know. It's Angus is the last one standing. You know,
what about his brother? I thought the brother was more like the mastermind.
Well, he is, but he got Parkinson's or one of those, and he's out.
Ah,
yeah. So
that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, now it's just Angus. So we don't know what's going to
But what about Brian?
Like, you know, a year ago, all of a sudden he said he had to take a little time off, and boom, all of a sudden it seemed like he's out. And, you know, Axl filled in from Guns N' Roses, and who knows, man? It's so weird to see a band like we're talking about, like the Ramones, where he said all of them died. Rock. It's not supposed to go past a couple years.
No,
you know
right.
what I mean?
No, definitely not.
So there's no manual, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, we're here 40, 50 years later, you know?
And the music better than ever, you know.
Yeah.
Especially AC/DC, and they played at that other level. Mind you, someone told me, in fact, I'm doing a show in Buenos Aires, so I have an agent who's Argentinian. Sebastian, old chap. I don't think you listen to this, but anyway, I'm going to go down and do one in May.
Yeah.
And I started seeing Marky a bit lately, who I hadn't seen. And of course, even though he wasn't the original drummer, he's kind of like the last Ramon standing, because for a long period, he was in the band, and he looked like a Ramon better than Tommy.
Yeah.
He really didn't want to be a drummer. He wanted to produce, didn't he, Tommy?
Yeah.
And he got out after how many albums did he do with Tommy before End of the Century?
I don't know, man.
Only 2 or 3 at most. And I shot the cover for End of the Century, so I didn't really work. I mean, I had performance pictures. But he says Marky gets big audiences down there. He said the Ramones' biggest ever audiences were in South America.
Wow.
And he actually is organising, as well as my Bowie show, he's also organising a Ramones exhibition down there.
Wow.
He said, no, they're huge, much bigger. I mean, of course, they had a significant career here.
Yeah.
But not to the same level of audiences, apparently.
The Ramones are amazing. They played till all the way till the end, you know, pretty much, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that last gig at the Palladium, it's incredible. If you think about this band where one guy's, steals the other guy's lady. And
I know Linda very well.
Right.
So
She was here last night, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
But I'm just saying, it's just crazy to ride and one guy's in the back of the van, the other guy's in the front.
And they hated each other.
They never talked again. Never talked again.
They played music all those years.
Unbelievable.
Such a wild story.
It is. Well, I think that was since they never made it to a level that they had to keep working, it's almost like a blue-collar job, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure you're making money and everything, but...
Well, I think they do better now that they're all... She spoke to me a little bit about that. I mean, I don't know the details. But, and she went, she said, it's just happened. I mean, I love them both, she said. She speaks very highly of Joey as well.
It's weird because I recently went to Queens where they were from.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in that. I took a photo in that subway staircase, that famous photo they took. And when you just look at those apartments where they're from, you just think wow, this is insane. This is like ground zero. 4 guys who...
And they all go to school together?
Yeah, they spend their whole lives together.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they became, in retrospect, the definitive punk rock band. Although Danny Fields says, it's the greatest band. He said they're one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's what Danny Fields thinks. God bless him.
I believe that too. They are rock and roll, man. You know?
Well, the interesting thing with them is, and I can't, I'd never talked to them about it, but of course, Joey's big heroes were actually Brian Wilson and Phil Spector.
Wow.
See, when his songs, there's a lot of sweet melody behind,
Yep.
you know, the thrashing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they actually wrote some pretty cool songs as songs
Yeah.
that other people could cover, you know. Whereas I'm not sure that the Pistols ever did, God bless them.
I wanted to ask you, you did shoot some Jerry Garcia.
Well, that was the summer of glam. I snuck off
Yeah.
because I liked the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and when there was, you know, like Working Man's Dead.
Love it, right?
American Beauty.
And those two. Ooh.
Fucking hell.
Right?
And then, of course, Riding That Train.
Oh.
Everybody loved that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, well, you can see how early those pictures are. I mean, not early, but pretty early, because Jerry's hair's black.
Yeah.
Because he went grey fairly early on, but he hadn't gone grey by 72. Yeah, that summer of... Somehow I knew... What was his name? He had been involved with Woodstock. The guy he was then in London, and he put the gig together. It wasn't in Wembley, it was in Wembley Pool, which had a smaller audience. But still, there were enough. And I didn't even have a pass. But
Yeah.
I wanted to fucking... Anyway, I saw him outside, and he got me in. But it was late in the gig. But
Yeah.
I did get a few. I've got a few black and whites, and you can see Bob Weir. And I think there's something with Pigpen, because Pigpen was still around.
Awesome.
But the pictures of Jerry...
They're killer.
They're pretty cool, right?
Oh, I love them,
Yeah,
man.
people think of me, it's glam rock, punk rock, but I've got great pictures of Bob Marley, Tina Turner, Ozzy Osbourne.
74, the Ozzy Osbourne
Oh, you've
photo.
seen him, he looks like a fucking angel.
Oh my God, man. It's just like when you look at it, you just go, there's the king right there, man. You know, 74, just clean. His hair looks cool.
He looks beautiful. He looks like a poet.
Yeah, it's the beginning of stoner rock right there. You know, you look at that photo and it just looks like, it reminds me of like my 7th grade photo. I had that hair and I was just going to school with like a BMX jersey on, you know. It's the classic stoner rock and roll kid.
Yeah, well, Kelly.
Yeah.
That's her favourite photo, or that session is her favourite session of her
Kelly
father,
Osbourne.
because he looks so pretty.
Yeah.
Which is the last thing you'd expect when talking about Ozzy. But look at the motherfucker still going. I mean, everybody said, well, no, you're supposed to die. I mean, I thought you were going to die 20, 30 years ago, Ozzy.
Yeah, like 9 times ago.
Yeah. It's kind of against the law that you're still hanging about. But he is, and he's even been doing that TV show with Jack, with his son.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I knew Sharon years ago.
Through her dad, Don Artie or something.
Exactly. Oh, you are very well educated. Exactly. Yes. I did maybe 3 or 4 sessions, and she'd come along to the sessions.
Jet Records stuff. Whew. Boom.
He nearly signed Queen to them. I remember when he was wooing Queen.
Wow.
Those were the days, darling, when even I was young.
Dude, you shot Queen too, the cover.
And I shot Sheer Heart Attack.
It's unbelievable, these covers. You've shot over 100 covers, but Queen too, and then...
All kinds of obscure covers that I can show you, and you don't even know who the act is. But, you have to make a living.
Now you do Queen 2, and then they do the Bohemian Rhapsody, and they redo mimic the cover.
Yeah.
And I was reading somewhere that you made $300 for the shoot, and you thought, "Wow, I've fucking made it! $300." That is
I think. Oh yeah, probably. What was it? £300.
£300, so $600.
Which would have been more.
Yeah.
Than it is today. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did everything. I conceived of that front. They came to me. Remember, they'd only had the first album out, and it wasn't. It got a little bit of interest, maybe a little bit of radio interest in America, but it didn't put them on the map.
Yeah.
And I remember they played me. It was at Trident.
Wow.
The people that owned Trident Studios, which is where Ziggy, Transformer, Mark Bolan, they were a big fucking deal, and. But they also had a management side. They had an Irish singer who was very talented, but I think, what was his name? I did a cover for him. I did a cover for this guy, Mark. What were they called? I did all kind. If I were to go through, I did a band called the Silly Sisters. I did. Only the Japanese figured out. I remember going over on one of my trips to Japan, and they were like, I remember Storm and Hypnosis were in it, and some other people, and they'd fucking I'd forgotten all kinds of album covers that I'd done, but nobody has a clue. I mean, because everybody wants to know about the obvious.
Of course.
And Joan Jett, and there's always Joan Jett.
Oh yeah, the Joan Jett. I love rock and roll.
Yeah.
But so when you meet with Queen and you give them the idea, it was your idea, the Four Faces.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody had given me a copy of a book about Marlene Dietrich, a guy called John Cabal, who has a famous collection. He died in the late 80s. He had all these Hollywood stills that he would go round the lots. I don't know how early he'd done it. So, probably in the early 60s. And he, like a lot of gay men back there, who were obviously very closeted, but still they had, their interests were kind of well ahead of the game, you know. I mean, they would throw out these fucking pictures and negatives, just sling them out in the dustbin. You do that, anybody can claim them, and John did.
Wow.
So he had this great collection. I know he got me to shoot his publicity shot for a new book he'd done, and he gave me some prints. Anyway, I remember he did this little book on Marlene Dietrich, and there was a shot from the session on the outside, and you know, the highlight, and then inside was the shot.
Yeah.
Now what I did was hood the eyes a bit more.
Right.
Because there were these four who they'd only ever been in a studio once before, and that's where I shot those topless pictures of them that were really, strictly speaking, shot as a final shot in the arm for the first Queen album.
Right.
But they got seen a bit, but they got seen obviously a lot more later when they became well known. Anyway, I remember going out to Trident. I'll tell you how the connection happened. There's a guy called Ken Scott, who was Bowie's co-producer and engineer on Hunky Dory, on Pin-Ups, on Aladdin Sane. Was he on... I don't think he was on Man Who Sold the World. I think he popped up. He probably was managed, because they managed engineers, by Trident.
Right.
And so I went up there. I was out Chateau d'Herouville, where David did Pin-Ups. And Ken said to me, you know, they've signed this band, they really want to meet with you, Mick. Who are the Queen? Oh, okay, never heard of them.
Yeah.
Not that it mattered, I was going to meet with them. I needed to make a living. I would meet, you know, all kinds of people.
Of course.
So, and I met with them. Very, you know, not hardcore, because Brian's a doctor, Roger was a dentist, Freddie had been to art college, like a lot, like Syd, like Pete Townsend, like Keith Richards, like Lennon, like so many English rockers.
Yeah.
You know, Mick Jagger went to the London School of Economics because he got his priorities right going in.
Yeah.
But so many of them went to art colleges, and Freddie had been to art college, and John was very quiet, because he was the latest to join the band, and he was called Deacon John then. I think on the first album they called him Deacon John, and then they went John Deacon.
Yeah.
After that, you know, they were still playing around with things, and they played me Queen 2.
Wow.
And I went, wow, that's kind of Led Zeppelin meets Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
And that got the okay, you know, because when I went, they wanted to meet me, and maybe I would shoot it, but you still got to go and seal the deal. You know?
Yeah. Right.
And so I was going to do the cover, and they told me it was going to be a gatefold. I mean, these guys. Well, they knew, they were convinced, especially Freddie, that they were going to be a big deal.
Wow.
He pitched big. I remember the first gig I saw him play was probably would have been probably the November of... They wanted me to go and see them play, and I took pictures, and they're in those Queen books. And it was a very small stage, probably in front of about 800 people. So they had acquired, which was more... was at the first Bowie gig I saw, which was in Birmingham Town Hall in March of 72, and there were about 400 people there for that.
Wow.
Well, he had a bit of a following, but it was a bit like you were talking earlier about that folky thing.
Yeah.
You know? But now he was moved into this new thing with the with Mick Ronson and company. So, but anyway, Freddie, he looked like he was in a fucking stadium. He was pitching so big.
Wow.
And anyway, all around the same time, I got to know John Cabal and did this little thing, and I showed Freddie. Didn't show the rest of them. And Freddie was always the one I was closest to. Plus he was the visual man. He had named the band.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
He used to say, people, and this was, the days of androgyny.
Yep.
He used to say, no, what it means is, and Queen,
Yeah.
already had its other meaning. And how he sold it to the rest of them, I don't know. Not that they were butch guys, but they certainly weren't gay. Queen, well, he was the visual guy. I think they were supporting, I was going out, maybe up to Manchester, somewhere in the Midlands, England's not very big,
Yep.
And I was actually also going to shoot Mott the Hoople. I think they were supporting Mott the Hoople.
Wow.
Who were
What a gig.
Yeah, I still see him. He's a cool guy. And of course he did that song recently called Dandy.
Yep.
It's all about Bowie. And he slips a line or two out of All the Young Dudes. And they're making a documentary about Mick Ronson. It's almost done.
Wow.
I know because I have a time code copy because they used a bunch of my stuff in it. And I did a little interview. Anyway, I had this little book with me. I showed it to Freddie. And I think the fact that it was Marlene Dietrich got him very excited.
Wow.
I could be Marlene,
Yeah.
So but camp was very hip at the time, amongst a small circle. I mean, David, you took in David, and even Roxy Music, not that Brian Ferry, they were not a gay band, but they, the gay guys liked the way they were dressing up. And so that's how that came about. But it had to have a black and white theme. The rest of the band, and I shot both, the rest of the band weren't sure what the cover should be. They thought, I don't know who it was that said they thought it was maybe a bit too pretentious.
Really?
And I thought, but Freddie didn't have any problem with being called pretentious. He said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Anyway, so after a bit of a debate, Freddie and I thought this, but still they all had a say in it. They were always a democratic band. And, but if Freddie really wanted something visually, obviously he could get what he wanted. And he did. And, that was not so easy to light because there were four of them.
Yeah.
Unlike Marlene, who was one, and by Shanghai Express, and she was working with Joseph von Sternberg, who had directed her in The Blue Angel, and maybe another film or two. He was like her mentor or Svengali. She had already been an actress in Berlin in the 30s, late 20s maybe, before she came to America. And I think The Blue Angel was actually shot in Berlin, and that's why Hollywood bought her and him here. So it was, there's never any formula. Just like there isn't really formula for music. But the photography end of it was, I never had an agent.
No agent?
No, but rock photographers didn't have agents back then. You didn't have a stylist.
Yeah.
I did.
Because the bands dressed themselves,
Yeah.
right? And their girlfriends would be like, put this on. There was no stylist showing up, putting on outfits on these bands while you're shooting them, right? They just looked fucking cool.
No, no one told Iggy what's like the silver trousers.
Yeah.
And now varnish. That jacket he got, which was Naugahyde back then. Although now I think recent years, somebody's made some limited edition.
Yeah, Vanson. Lewis made a limited edition one.
Yeah. But the original was Naugahyde.
Yeah.
It wasn't leather.
Yeah.
Iggy couldn't have afforded leather back then.
That's crazy to think that you just said that there was no stylist, because it just shows you how much it's changed, because...
But it was so organic back then.
Yeah.
I didn't have an assistant. Yes, over a period of time, but not in those early... I would show up and it'd be me and the band, and And then I started to get into the studio. And I did have a lady, Celia, and she certainly worked on those Queen shoots. So must have been summer in 73 when I got the studio. She came on board, but she would double up as a makeup artist. She did the makeup. In fact, she is on the back of the Geordie album.
Wow.
And
really?
she did the makeup as well.
Wow.
So,
Unbelievable.
I know. If you get into the details of rock and roll, it's always so eccentric and unlikely.
Yeah. Now, you've been shooting ever since. You never stopped, and you've shot a lot of amazing people in the last 15, 20 years. Queens of the Stone Age, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Oh, the Yeah Yeah
How about
Yeahs.
Karen O? Huh? She's
in the documentary.
Karen O to me.
The guy I was sitting with
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
was the director of the documentary.
Oh, wow.
But he's also married to Karen O. I knew her first, actually, not that there was anything
Right.
of
Oh, that was Spike Jones when I walked in?
What, was it there? Was he there? No. That was Barney Clay.
He's married to Karen O?
Yeah, I think Spike.
Oh, Spike was his old, her old that's
flame.
right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And he's also over at Vice.
Wow.
So they still know each other. They're tied in that way. But yeah, I mean, I've shot Janelle Monáe, Snoop Dogg,
Yeah.
Pharrell,
Yeah.
Q-Tip. I don't know. There's a lot of people I've shot. Flaming Lips.
Yeah, Wayne Coyne.
Yeah, I saw there was a big piece on him I thought it's the biggest piece he's ever had in the Sunday Times Arts section a week or two ago.
Wow.
Because they finally put out a new album.
Yeah.
And I had a TV program on Ovation called,
Oh, yeah, where you'd go through towns with a rock star.
Yeah, they're talking about doing it, but I don't want to do it like that. And you have to sit down and have a fucking meal.
Right.
I'm not Anthony Bourdain, God bless him. But anyway, there's talking with Sony at the moment about, media needs content. And
Yeah.
I'm still standing.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a good ear bend too. So
A good ear bend.
I get all kinds of things.
Let's talk Motley Crue. You shot them.
Motley Crue.
You shot Motley Crue back in the day.
Oh yeah.
There had to be some fucking wild shit going on in
So
that.
much fucking cocaine on that session.
Yeah, right?
And Vince kept disappearing. He was in an interesting situation because that car crash.
Oh, it was right after that with Razzle?
Yeah. And I'm not even sure if he could leave LA at that moment. But he had some bird there and he kept fucking disappearing with this bird.
Yeah.
We'd have to go and find him and flush him out. I remember that. And cocaine. And of course I was, it wasn't like, no one would
So
do
there's
that.
just a pile of coke. You guys would do coke, then shoot photos, and then do coke?
No, I always did that. By then, those were the days.
Wow.
Do some coke and
Yeah.
go and shoot. I did that in the Joan, Jett, Carly Simon sessions. I did that.
I love
that. The Blondie sessions. Those were the days.
Man, that is awesome. That is insane.
You're going to edit this, right? You're going to edit out when I sound stupid, right?
No, you don't sound stupid at all, man. We're rock and roll, dude. Do you...
Well, we'll post it. You send me a link, and I'll give it to my girls.
It's going up in like an hour.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You better send me a link. I'll send it
I'm
over.
going to immediately.
Okay. That's wild.
Now, a lot of people, my podcast, people come up and they say there's no good music anymore, and that's not true.
No, it's not true.
People just don't know, I find that music...
But they like saying it too,
Well, they like saying it because I think most people, music is just a time machine back to their memories of like freedom and no bills and all that. But there's tons of great music, and you're out there shooting people still to these days.
Well, I don't tend to go and shoot live stuff. I did for a while for the W hotels when I would go, and then I would also shoot portraits.
Right.
And then shoot them playing it in the afternoon, and then I would shoot the gigs in the evening. But, mostly I don't have the fucking time or the energy to do that. Mostly it's either I want to do it or, people come to me about doing sessions. The moment started to talk about doing a shoot with, what's his name? Uptown Funk. I've shot Mark Ronson. I know Mark. What's his name? Bruno Mars.
Oh, Bruno Mars. Yeah. Bruno Mars.
Ever since I saw footage of him about 4 years old doing his Elvis impersonation.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, fuck this motherfucker. It's got to be cool, But I tell you something.
Yeah.
I'll give you a few more twists and turns. I never did heroin.
Yeah.
I wasn't a drinker. Wasn't really into downs. I knew yoga from a very early age, and I would use yoga to bring me down. It was not, and I still do tons of yoga.
I can't imagine being coked up doing yoga.
Stand on your head. No, I found you would hadn't slept for 3 days. I mean, we are talking 30, 35 years ago.
Of course.
Of course, yeah, not yesterday.
Yeah.
And be completely buzzed on coke. If you stood on your head and then did a drop back, the buzz got even bigger.
Wow. Yeah.
Hilarious. Out of my mind. But I only knew other people that were out of their minds, you know. I mean, it was the way it was.
Yeah. I mean, no one's looking to live to be 100 back then. You're like, you lived for hour to hour.
Iggy should have been dead definitely before he was 30. Everybody thought he was gone.
Guys of God.
Unbelievable.
What were you using back then, camera-wise? Were you just...
Nickel matte. The 35mm was a nickel matte, and by the time of the Bowie saxophone stuff, I was also shooting a bit more set-up stuff. I was shooting, I had Hasselblad, but a wind-on one.
Right.
I always used the wind-on one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, they were all wind-ons in those days.
And no photo school? Just shoot and learn?
Yeah, well, it didn't seem very complicated to me, and I didn't use a light meter. I had one early on, and I broke it, and I thought, fuck it. Somehow I could figure it out, but I liked it when the Hasselblad came along, because then you could have a Polaroid, you know.
Right.
But all that early stuff, none of that for Syd, Bowie, Iggy, Lou, Rory Gallagher. I did 3.
And you're never worried you're not going to get the shot? Like, oh my God, this is too dark. It's blurry. It didn't come out.
Well, I knew if you did a clip test, you could push process film. That's why, let's, for instance, take the Syd Barrett Madcap sessions.
The album cover.
Yes.
It's in a dark room, right?
Yeah, but the look of it, and you look at all the pictures.
Looks kind of 3D.
The reason for the color, one, it was daylight film, and I had a little reflector with a light, with a bulb in it, like a special photographic bulb, and so it was lit by photo flood, but it was daylight film. But because it was still pretty dark, I had to process it 3 stops. So that changes the color, which is already going to be a bit off the wall because I'm using the wrong film. But I knew you could push it a bit better. I'd learnt a little bits and pieces, and it's very grainy. And the reason it looks so fabulous is because I did everything wrong. True.
I love that, man. Well,
we haven't got much more time.
Yeah, let's tell everybody where we can find you. The Mick Rock on Twitter.
I don't even know
that's what it is.
Is it the real Mick Rock?
The real Mick Rock.
Because there've been other people out there.
Yeah, the real Mick Rock. Also, your books on Toshins. You got the documentary coming out called Shot.
Shot with an exclamation mark.
Yep. And also,
and we're putting the Lou Reed book out again. My friend Norman Reedus. Do you know Norman Reedus, Walking Dead?
Nope.
He's the guy with the...
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we're going to do a book. And then there's also talk of possibly Iggy. I've done a Raw Power book, but this would be a more collaborative thing with Genesis. We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, I've got a lot of shit going on.
I love you, man.
All these exhibitions, and who would have thought? I go, the fuck are you doing an exhibition in your museum for me? I mean, this is supposed to be on the edge, outside the law, rebel rock, and there you are, you ponce. You're in these fucking cultural centres and museums and galleries all over the world. But they want it everywhere. I'm talking about a Shanghai exhibition in the autumn.
Wow.
I'm certainly going to South America. You know, and when I get the money, I know I'm going.
Yeah.
So these are things. And then I'm doing the Seattle, used to be the EMP Museum.
Oh, yeah, that
now
place.
Now it's the Museum of Pop, doing a big show there that will be out for 3 or 4 months. We're going to do London finally this year, maybe Shanghai, Mexico City. I know we're going to do it because I've had half my money.
Wow.
When you get money, you know it's happening.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I always say.
It helps.
Right?
The contracts help, but the cash, you go, okay, it's definitely happening.
Thanks for doing the show, man.
All right. Well, you've been fun. I'd like to come and see you doing your stand-up.
Oh, you got to.
But I'm leaving on this trip tomorrow. So.
Well, I'm in New York a lot.
Oh, well, just let me know.
All right, dude. Thank you so much, man.
All right. No, you've been a fun to talk to.
Rock and roll, man. Thanks, guys, for tuning
rock
in.
and roll nearly fucking butchered me, and it paid a lot of bills.
Candles lit, right?
Yes. Yes, they were almost lit. Yes. But thanks to Alan Klein and Andrew Lou Goldham, I wasn't claimed on this trip. You know, they were circling. The buzzards were circling.
Yeah. Call. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.